Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Mind Muscle Connection podcast. Today is a Q&A episode, and I have three questions I want to dive into, and let's get into them. This first one I actually answered wrong on my story because it said 2 to 3 weeks. Thoughts about extended fasts like 2 to 3 weeks, no food, just water. I see it on IG. And what are my thoughts on it? I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I don't see any reason that you would need to do a 2 to 3 extended fast. Now, I do think we need to ask at the end of the day, what would be your main benefits of doing a fast? What are you trying to get out of it? Is it weight loss, fat loss? Is it overall health benefits? Either way, 2 to 3 weeks is extreme, and it comes with serious risks, and I'm going to go over what those are. But either way, there's no need. But I also think we need to ask, like, why am I doing this? What's the outcome that I'm trying to get? Let's say, for example, fasting. If our goal is fat loss, there's not going to be any magic to the fasting for fat loss other than it's going to get you to be in a energy deficit. That's If that's the case, then to me, there's better ways to go about that. You don't have to do something extreme like 2 to 3 weeks. Even I think 2 to 3 days of fasting, again, that's less extreme than this. It's still fairly extreme. Anyone who going 2 to 3 days without eating, again, that would be very challenging for people who can't go 2 hours without eating to now have somebody try and do 2 to 3 days. And again, who are going to be the types of people that end up doing that are going to be people that don't have good diet habits in place most of the time, right? You're going to get some of these crazy people that are like, I'm going to do 2 to 3 weeks of fasting. But again, people that try to do these extreme protocols usually don't have good habits in place and they struggle in general there. Again, I think it's, first we want to see what the reason, like what we're trying to get out of it. And so I'm going to dive into fasting a little bit more, just doing some research, some potential benefits that people will say of doing 2 to 3 week fasts, which again, let's keep this in mind. I already said, I think it's absolutely crazy and it's not necessary and we don't need to do it. But deep autophagy and cellular repair. So extended fasting may significantly increase autophagy, helping to clear out damaged cells and potentially reduce the risk of chronic diseases. It could also promote stem cell regeneration, particularly for the immune system. Again, I don't think that any of these things are going to do anything more than what a good lifestyle habits can cover, right? And again, most people need to focus on that anyways. But also from the autophagy standpoint, again, my understanding is, hey, just a good old calorie restriction can also be something that helps with autophagy. Now, again, maybe in some very extreme situations, would this be something you want to do? Maybe, but again, I wouldn't know. That's way out of my league on this. But again, for somebody who is otherwise, maybe they just have a little bit higher levels of body fat, maybe their lifestyle's out of whack, they don't have any type of disease or anything like that. And again, people that listen to this and probably somebody that I would work with, I don't see any reason to do that, right? From the autophagy and cellular repair standpoint, from again, things that we can't just do normally, right? In terms of improving our lifestyle, right? Things that people generally overlook, right? Someone who's going to want to do this, usually someone who doesn't sleep very well, stress is out of whack, their diet quality is terrible. Again, all these things are not going to be helpful from a cellular repair standpoint and autophagy standpoint. Profound fat loss, right? Some people will say that longer fasts may lead to substantial fat loss, which it would, right? Especially for those with higher body fat percentages, like 100%, it's going to help. You're not eating for 2 to 3 weeks, so you're going to be in a large deficit. However, muscle loss is going to be a concern muscle loss is going to be a concern in this. Yeah, again, you could go and weight train, and maybe that will, how's your training going to be in 2 to 3 weeks without food? Another kind of thing that people will tout is improved insulin sensitivity. Extended fasting can enhance insulin sensitivity and help manage blood sugar, potentially benefiting people with type 2 diabetes, which again, a good old calorie restriction is going to be something that helps with that. Movement and everything is going to, better food choice, all these things are going to help there. Mental clarity and focus. Ketone production during prolonged fasting can enhance cognitive function and provide mental clarity. Again, I think all the things that we talk about are going to be things that are going to help that. Some will also say gut healing and microbiome reset. Digestive rest can allow for gut repair, reducing inflammation and potentially improving gut health. Again, this is a little bit out of my league here, but to me, I think managing stress, all these other things, those are all going to be things that are going to impact this. And okay, maybe doing some form of fasting could be something like this, but I don't see how a 2 to 3 week fast would be something that would be the thing here. Again, these are some of the potential benefits that people will tout of 2 to 3 week fast. And I've just gone through, these are all things that we can do without having to go to the extreme here with it. Again, and here's the thing, these 2 to 3 week fasts, they're going to come with some serious risks, okay? Nutrient deficiencies. Extended fasting can lead to vitamin and mineral deficiencies. These imbalances can cause heart arrhythmias, muscle cramps, and fatigue. Muscle loss, right? Without protein intake, the body may break down muscle tissue for energy, especially if glycogen and fat stores are depleted. So again, if you're leaner and you're doing this, you're definitely going to lose muscle. Hormonal disruption. Prolonged fasting may disrupt thyroid hormones, which would lower your metabolism, and reproductive hormones, especially in women. And it can lead to the loss of menstrual cycles and reduced testosterone in men. Weakened immune system. While short fasts may boost immunity, longer fasts may suppress immune function due to inadequate nutrient intake. We also have something called refeeding syndrome. After prolonged fasting, improper refeeding can lead to dangerous shifts in electrolyte, potentially causing heart failure or organ damage. And then severe fatigue and cognitive impairment. Energy levels can plummet, leading to dizziness, brain fog, and poor concentration, especially if hydration and electrolytes are not managed. Who should not attempt a 2 to 3 week fast? I think pretty much everyone, but people for sure that don't want to are pregnant or breastfeeding women, individuals with eating disorders or history of disordered eating, people with diabetes, especially type 1, anyone with nutrient deficiencies or low body fat, those on medications requiring food intake. So a lot of people. Again, 2 to 3 week fast is going to be extremely risky and should really, if you're going to do it, only be attempted under medical supervision. Again, most of the advantages are going to be achieved with some form of calorie restriction, some other intermittent fasting protocol like time restricted feeding without the severe risk associated with prolonged fasting. Again, don't do it. If someone is promoting to do a 2 to 3 week fast, you need to stop following these people on IG. Now, again, I think it's also important to recognize what are the differences between different fasting protocols because people lump them all together. You have these extended fasts, you have multiple weeks, which again, we talked about, not a good idea for anybody, no matter what, even if it's for health, fat loss, whatever it may be, especially for body comp standpoint. Then you have, again, 2 to 3 days. Then we have alternate day fasting where you fast one day, then you don't fast the next day. And then we have time restricted feeding, which again is the most common one, right? This is where we're just going to have some periods of time where we're eating and then not eating, right? Hey, you're only going to eat from say 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. That would be time restricted feeding. And in the research, when it comes to fat loss, some of these fasting strategies have been shown to be beneficial from a fat loss perspective. Now, the big key is that the energy deficit, right? The people that lose the body fat and lose weight with these intermittent fasting protocols, they get into a calorie deficit, right? And then people that don't, and they're just eating ad libitum, which just means they're just eating however they want. They don't lose body fat, right? Because they're not in a calorie deficit. So it can be. So the takeaway from that is it can be a strategy to where if you don't want to necessarily track your calories, it can certainly work. And then there is probably some benefit to having periods of time where we don't have to digest food. And again, from a gut health perspective, right? Kind of what they were talking about earlier, from that, which again, we don't have to take these super extreme protocols to this. So there is some benefit of fasting from a muscle building standpoint. If that is your main goal, I don't think it's a great strategy. Again, if you have to do this for religious reasons, okay, then what are the things that we can do? Try and get your training in your feeding window, stay hydrated. When you finish the fast, you make sure that we're not overeating. You're eating foods that are probably more nutrient dense. Make sure you get protein in. These would be some of the main things that we would want to do in this process if we had to fast or we wanted to fast or whatever it may be there. But again, I personally don't, if you wanted to try like a extended fast of 2 to 3 days or something that mimics a fast, I think a protein sparing modified fast would versus going multiple days. So again, that could be a strategy that you implement where maybe you implement that a couple days a week. Maybe you do it for a week. And then again, I would do that under supervision. And then you have a week where maybe you're at maintenance calories. But again, we always have to look out for that period of time coming off. That's fasting in a nutshell on there. And actually, there was a recent study that just came out that did show they looked at different fasting protocols here. I think it was like a 5-2 diet, time restricted feeding, alternate day fasting where they ate one day and didn't eat another day. And they did find that alternate day fasting did work. Now, again, we have to, that was like the best like strategy from like a fat loss perspective and everything like that. Again, though, I got to caution you on going an entire day without any food is just very challenging. Like I said, I think a better strategy would be maybe you do an alternate day fast of like low calorie-ish, right? Your fat loss diet calories, and then you go even lower, but you do a protein sparing modified fast. I would much rather see that. I think that's much more sustainable and much more doable than an alternate day fasting where you eat one day and then you don't eat another day. Again, to me, that just doesn't seem like a very practical strategy for most people. And again, while not extreme as a 2 to 3 week fast, an entire day of not eating is still fairly extreme from that perspective. So again, I think we can get away with these extended kind of fasts overall. Hopefully that kind of sums that up. And again, if anyone promotes a 2 to 3 week fast or longer, stop following them. Again, it's just not necessary and it's just super extreme and it comes with a ton of risk. And yeah. All right. So next question is thoughts on new alcohol/cancer links and warnings. So basically, if you're not familiar, if you don't really know what's going on here with this, before When I got asked this question the other night, I just saw the warnings, but I didn't really see what they were. Basically, I'll just go over them real quick. Recent advisories have highlighted the health risks associated with alcohol consumption, even at moderate levels. So U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy has issued a new advisory emphasizing the direct link between alcohol intake and increased risk of at least 7 types of cancer, including breast, liver, and oh man, I don't know how to pronounce it, so I'm going to butcher it and somebody's going to make fun of me, but colorectal cancers. I guess that would be, I haven't heard it said that way. Again, if somebody wants to call me out on that, I totally understand. Anyways, in light of these findings, Dr. Murthy recommends updating the warning labels on alcoholic beverages to explicitly mention cancer risks, aiming to raise public awareness and encourage informed decision-making regarding alcohol consumption. Additionally, the upcoming 2025 dietary guidelines, they update these every 5 years, are expected to reassess alcohol consumption recommendations, potentially advising stricter limits to better reflect current research on alcohol-related risk, health risks, which I'm going to go over what it currently says there with that. These developments underscore the importance of understanding the health implications of alcohol use and considering moderation or abstinence to reduce associated risk. What are the kind of current dietary guidelines on alcohol? And it's essentially adults of legal drinking age should limit intake to 2 drinks or less per day for men and 1 drink or less per day for women. You're looking at upwards of 14 drinks per week there for men, and then 1 drink or less per day. I'm going to see what would be considered drink. So some examples of one standard drink would be 12 ounces of beer, 5 ounces of wine, ounces of distilled spirits, right? So again, typically what we're going to look at there in terms of what is considered a drink. And what are my thoughts on this? I think alcohol should be had in moderation regardless. This didn't change my mind on it. I think that no matter what, alcohol should be had in moderation. And so this doesn't change anything on my end. I feel like if you're anyone who maybe has drank more in the past, don't drink as much now, or maybe don't drink at all anymore, you could firsthand tell the difference in how you feel from day to day, your look, stuff like that. I just feel like anyone who's gone through that kind of transformation, like you, that it's probably not great for you. So again, it doesn't change anything from that perspective for me, right? This is probably something that the less you can have, the better, right? So someone will ask, how much should I have now? And it's, again, I think the less you can have, the better, right? I don't really have a number on that. It's just have less. Again, if you can have 1 instead of 2, do that. If you can have 2 instead of 3, do that. If you can have 0, you should probably do that. But again, I think that we don't want to think of this as, hey, you have 1 alcoholic beverage per week and you're totally screwed, right? That's not the case. I do think we can fit it into an overall healthy lifestyle if we use it correctly. And what can be something that does help lower stress so long as we're not overdoing it, right? And we need to take that into consideration. If you having 1 to 2 drinks every once in a while helps lower your stress, relaxes you, and that's a way that can lower your overall stress level, to me, that's a net positive. So we have to take that into consideration there. And again, your overall lifestyle, nutrition, and exercise habits are still going to have the biggest impact here, right? When you take someone who has 5 drinks a week, and I'm going to go over some ways that you can use it more wisely. You exercise 3, 4, 5 times a week, you do your cardio. Okay, boom, you're fine there because you're already doing that. You also sleep well on top of it. You focus on your sleep, you focus on your circadian hygiene, you manage your overall stress levels, and you eat an otherwise healthy diet. You're probably fine just because, again, you have a lot of the big things in check. Now, what typically happens though is that people who have more than 1 drink per day for women, more than 2 per day for men, is they don't exercise, they don't sleep well, their stress is through the roof. That's how they manage their stress. And all these things just exacerbate off each other, right? They also don't make good food choices, right? That usually leads to that, right? And so I think that's the other thing with alcohol is it typically leads to poorer sleep, right? Usually that's how people manage their stress, which is not a good way to manage your stress. It just usually makes it worse. And it also leads to worse choices from a food perspective as well too. And you're just less likely to exercise now on top of it, right? So this kind of gateway to all these things, it's this vicious cycle, right? It's like you're stressed. So you have some drinks, you have a couple drinks. Now your sleep's impacted. So then you wake up, you're not feeling as great. And then you're stressed, you're less resilient to stress. You don't exercise to manage that. And then you come home and you're stressed. You have a couple drinks, sleep's poor. And it ends up being this kind of vicious cycle that somewhere we have to try and break that loop, that cycle there with that. So I just want to briefly go over a few ways how you can just manage drinking and to where it doesn't really impact you. I think the more you drink, the more it's going to impact your results. If you're getting to the point of getting drunk every weekend, it's going to be holding you back from body composition and health goals. Again, the problem with alcohol isn't just the calories from drinking. Although it's easy to overdo this, it's also the lower inhibitions like we talked about, it's poor sleep, and it's extra calories that are also there. And so again, we want to So some things we can do here. We want to avoid drinking too close to bed. Try to have most, if not all, of your drinks earlier in the evening, and this helps protect your sleep. You can alternate between alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages to just help make sure that you consume less alcohol. This is more so if you go out. Try to stick to lower calorie options if possible. Choose drinks that won't completely blow up your caloric intake. So things like dry wine, spirits with low calorie mixers, or light beers, which are all better choices. So those are my main ones on that. I did make a 15-minute video for clients going over alcohol. And so if you're interested in that, just shoot me over a message on Instagram, say alcohol, and I'll shoot you over that video there. So that's where we're at. I think this is good. I think overall it's good that this is getting out there, because I do think that we need a little bit more push here to have people consume a little bit less, because it is an issue in and of itself, and all the other downstream effects as well too there. All right. So last question of the day is thoughts on cheat meals or cheat days. And so I don't like them. I think it leads to a poor relationship with nutrition, and I think it's going to hold you back from your body composition goals. It gives you this quote unquote free mindset when it comes to food of, oh, hey, if you just stay on track and then you just have this meal where you just do whatever you want. I just feel like it gives you this sense of, oh, hey, this is a free meal. I can do whatever I want. When really at the end of the day, like depending on what you do with that. Now, if we're talking cheat meal or cheat day, those are two different things. If we're having a cheat day, I can certainly impact your progress. Cheat meal, because it's less, there's a less likelihood of it. Depending on what you do, it can still impact you, because you could easily smash 2,000, 3,000 calories in one single meal if you're not careful with it, maybe even more. And that's going to be something that at the end of the day, once again, to come back to the alcohol thing, if that's what we do, let's say we have these massive meals because we are restricting ourselves the entire week, and hey, we look forward to this one meal and it's quote unquote a free meal. You can do whatever you want, and you eat 4,000 calories, or even just 2,000, which again is super easy to do. Now we're talking, depending on when you have it, it could impact your sleep, which just like we talked about with alcohol, that could impact things. The next day, maybe you're feeling bloated, your gut health is off. Again, now you're going to be less motivated to do things. You're not going to feel as great. So you're going to be more likely to make worse food choices again the next day. And so again, it's, excuse me, it's all these things that the downward kind of impact that we need to look at here. And then also, again, just from a caloric standpoint, if you have, again, like I said, even in one meal, I think you could easily get to 2,000 to 4,000 calories. If we have an entire cheat day, we could easily get to 5,000 to 6,000 calories. It's still a pretty good amount of food. People can do it, especially in today's world. But again, that is a lot of food. But that can be something that brings you to your maintenance calories for the week, right? And so this kind of leads to those people that are tracking but not seeing the results, right? So I'm tracking 1,200 calories throughout the week, and so there's that. And then I think from a body composition standpoint, for throughout the week, we're going super low calorie. That's not going to be great from a body composition standpoint of muscle building. And then you have these days where then we go super high in calories. Again, one day is not going to make or break you in the long run, depending on what you do most of the time. But if we're doing this once a week, that's where it starts to add up. And I think if you took someone who ate normally throughout the week, maybe they had some days where a little bit higher, a little bit lower. And then you took someone who had these like really low calorie days, and then these really high, like one cheat meal days where again, maybe they don't track, but they're just eating whenever. I think the person that the first person would their body composition would be much better than the second person. Calories equated. Let's say somehow they got their calories equated, which again, that would be hard to do. But imagine that they would be the second person would be worse off from a body composition standpoint. So again, and I think cheat days are even worse because again, it's the entire day when unfortunately it's like, I get the concept of it. It's, hey, go out, enjoy a meal. But we still need to have some parameters around this, especially for people who are more prone to this. And I feel like people that are more prone to overeating and binging and stuff like that are the ones that are going to do the cheat day. So again, it's also like the type of person that's going about this. And unfortunately, like I said, it just leads to this thought process of, oh, hey, this doesn't count, when unfortunately it does. Like it still counts, like your body has to do something with that energy. And again, I just think these days where we just massively overconsume calories is probably not great. That's for me been the biggest change in my that I've changed from a body comp and like overall health standpoint is just like in building phases. I used to, when I was eating in a calorie surplus, I would used to eat meals to where I was like super full and I would consume a ton of calories on them. And that's one thing that I've changed, where definitely don't want my calories to ever be that high, and I don't want to have it in one single meal as well too, just because again, you just don't feel great either. That's other big thing, is you just feel terrible when you overconsume calories. So that's my thoughts on cheat meals and cheat days. I just think I don't like them. What's better? I think having a strategic day where again, you have an enjoyment meal. I like to use, because I think the phrasing is super important. It's enjoyment meal, but we are still going to have some parameters around it. And again, this is also going to depend on what phase we're in. If we're in a fat loss phase, I think cheat meals, cheat days really can impact your progress. But instead, on those days, maybe for fat loss, it's okay, we're still going to go have something tasty, but we still need to have some guidelines up and bumpers there, so where you don't go too far out. And then if you're in a phase outside of that, maybe we can loosen up those bumpers, but we're still not going to get to that point to where I talked about, where you're stuffing yourself and you're just super full and you're just having everything. Again, I think just from a general health standpoint in relationship with food, that's not a great place to be there. So that's my thoughts. Again, some other things that you could do to make it better is make sure you go high protein on those days. Try to still include some fruit and veggie in the meal and throughout the day, and exercise, right? I think those are the best things you can do on those days. That's it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoy these 3 questions. I am opening up my winter cohort of my Body Recomp Blueprint coaching program. If you are interested in that, this is my signature program where you can expect to decrease your body fat percentage, lose inches in your waist, feel better not only physically, but also mentally, be able to be there for your family when you need to, be able to work better, hopefully leads to promotion at your job, just feel better overall, and just much more energy and vitality towards life. And with this, I focus on 5 pillars. Okay. So there's 5 pillars of body recomp within my Body Recomp Blueprint. And it's 1, progressive muscle building and cardio training methods, right? So structured training programs designed to build muscle and improve your overall health, metabolic flexibility / performance, not just random hard workouts of, oh, hey, are you super sore? Did you burn a ton of calories, right? Then we have strategic nutrition methods. These nutrition approaches are tailored to your body and goals, right? So we meet you where you're at and what we are trying to do, because not everybody necessarily needs to add a ton of muscle. Not everybody wants to add a ton of muscle, but everybody can benefit from having some lean body mass. So again, where are you at? What is your overall goal? And then what is your current lifestyle as well too? Then we have movement optimization. These are daily activity strategies to increase overall calorie expenditure and just metabolic health and overall health, right? We also want to look at that movement outside of your structured training as well too. And then we have lifestyle and recovery optimization. This is your sleep, stress management, and recovery techniques to balance hormones and support fat loss and muscle gain. And then lastly, we have mindset mastery. So building habits and mental resilience to sustain progress and long-term results. So just to tie a few of these together with our episode today, lifestyle and recovery optimization. Again, you could be tracking your calories and macros, you could be pushing your training, but if there's something with alcohol there, again, that's part of the lifestyle. Like, how can we better fit that into making sure that is optimized? And then again, to bring the fasting into it, it's also that falls into strategic nutrition methods. That would not fall under a strategic nutrition method, right? So again, finding nutrition strategies that work for you based on what your goals are. And then the last one, cheat meals, again, that also falls under strategic nutrition methods as well too. And mindset mastery, just because again, if our mindset, depending on what our mindset is, that is going to be a huge thing here outside of training. Just to give a few examples here, a lot of people, when they come to me, they enjoy training. They're probably more so, quote unquote, working out versus actually training. So we get them on a structured training program that is actually has a system in place to progress you and not just be random workouts, right? From a nutrition perspective, again, maybe someone is tracking their calories and macros, but we're strategic with it, right? From a movement optimization, a lot of people don't really move outside of their 1-hour training session per day. And then again, the big one that people overlook is the lifestyle optimization. Again, that's one that people will be working super hard, and again, their lifestyle's out of whack, and that's just going to hold you back from seeing the results. You could be on the best muscle building program, you could have good nutrition, but if your lifestyle's out of whack, it's going to hold you back. And then mindset, right? This is kind of the one that, again, if we come into this with a poor mindset, we can't. It's how we face adversity. It's how we face challenges, how we face setbacks. And again, if we can't master those things, we're going to struggle, right? Taking a 360 approach here with Body Recomp. And that's exactly what my Body Recomp Blueprint does. So I'm opening the doors for my winter cohort. This will run through the end of January. So if you're interested in this and you want to find out more, there's a link to set up a free call in the show notes. And you can also reach out to me on Instagram and just shoot over Body Recomp Blueprint, and we can chat about it in more detail and see if it's something that would work for you. So that's it for this episode. I'll chat with you guys next time.